Switch 2 pre-orders are finally here. So just before we start the video, I just want to apologize for some misinformation that I might have interpreted in my latest video. So remember when I said that you can play the GameCube controller with only GameCube games? Well, I'm actually wrong and I want to apologize for this misinformation. So they will still play Switch 2 games, but there are still going to be some issues. And that was confirmed by Nintendo itself. So yes, you can still play Switch 2 games, but there still might be issues with the controller compatibility with the Switch 2 games. Anyways, moving on. For those of you who are still living under a rock, which is basically the same in my case, there was a lot of news that was going on relating to Nintendo. This includes the obscure prices, without the tariffs by the way, shillers blaming inflation, haters spreading misinformation, critics farming content, Bowser calling us poor, a delay in the Switch 2 pre-orders, a spike from $80 to $90 games only on Europe by the way. It's still $80 on both Japan and America, and despite that Nintendo's greed knowing no bounds, in some cases of course there are still misinformation. The tariff war between America and China, and the new Switch 2 prices after the tariffs had hit. And while the games and console have been untouched, the hardware wasn't lucky enough to survive the blow, as they have suffered $5 to $10 increase in prices. And all that along with a bunch of news and interviews that happened during the 3-week time period has finally gotten us all to this day, where it is either time to pre-order the Nintendo Switch 2, make a statement by not purchasing the pre-order, or attempting to save up in order to buy the Switch 2 in the future. I just want to state how proud I am that Nintendo fans have come a long way, shifting themselves from everyday gamers to professional journalists, code experts, entrepreneurs and business experts, PhD game researchers, experts at the pre-order stock market, and all just so we can throw all of that away once we get the Switch 2 console. Kinda like me watching the news for the very first time just to stop watching it after I get what I want. Speaking of saving up, I just wanted to discuss the fact of selling your Switch 1 first. Some think it's a good idea since Switch 2 is going to emulate Switch 1 games on its console, while others disagree, posting on social media that they're getting ripped off. And I'm kinda in both sides on this one. So I'm sure you've already heard that they're going to sell the Switch 1 on GameStop, Walmart, and Target in America, along with other retail stores in different countries. Now let's just put our focus a little bit on GameStop, because apparently they help you transfer all your Switch 1 data into the Switch 2 console before buying it. But then you see that they're selling the Switch 1 consoles at a lower price than half what it was originally. So then you think, is it really worth it? Because then you think of the compatibility of Switch 1 games to Switch 2 console. Well, look no further, because Nintendo actually answered this question to us, where they stated that you can play up to 99% of Switch 1 games with no issues at all, along with almost all the partner games where 10% of them will launch with no issues, while unfortunately 90% of it might face some issues, and that's to be further tested, but nonetheless you will still be able to play the game smoothly. So this is why I'm saying that I was kind of in both sides, because you see, on one side you can play Switch 1 games on Switch 2 games, but on the other hand you're getting ripped off when trying to sell your Switch 1 console. Still a lot to think about, and I don't blame you for not pre-ordering just yet due to this situation. And for those of you genuine haters who don't really want to buy the Nintendo Switch 2, I get it. Ever since the Switch 2 Direct, there have been a lot of negatives going on around the console itself, and the games that come along with it, along with the hardware as well. Most of those negatives which are justifiable. The reason that I am saying most is because there are a few pieces of information that have been proven to be misinformation, which were mostly told by critics on social media. And don't get me wrong, critics are actually doing this world a favor. When it comes to a big corporation, there would always be a few haters of that same corporation. When it comes to haters in general terms, genuine haters, I happen to respect them even if I don't support them in all aspects. They happen to have the audacity to state their opinion when others are defending a certain corporation. Unfortunately, this resulted on people hating on a certain corporation for no reason, but that's besides the point. Because the point I'm trying to make is, critics show that those genuine haters aren't alone in the cause, and build a community that goes against everything the corporation holds dear. But unfortunately, those critics made a mistake. They spread the misinformation upon the social media, believing that there is no way to prove otherwise. Whether it's unknowingly and genuinely hating on Nintendo, or knowingly just to make content, cause you know, hating on Nintendo is content on itself, which later got debunked by several YouTubers and journalists, giving shillers the perfect excuse to state how they are right and haters are wrong. But I mean, come on, spreading misinformation? Are you serious? Of course that didn't stop the genuine haters of Nintendo, but it still increased the number of shills. Okay, I think I moved us too off topic, so let's just move back to the subject of pre-orders again. Now let's talk about the real topic. I'm talking about the pre-orders. So people faced a lot of problems in terms of pre-ordering the Switch from those 4 places, and everybody was getting scared. Shillers were just breaking down while haters were laughing at them. But then let's think about it again. It's already been confirmed that Switch 2 is going to sell in multiple bulks, meaning that if you don't get it on April 24th, then you can still get it at a later date before June 5th. In fact, Japan's second wave is already starting on April 28th. What's to say the same can't be said with other countries? Although you're still going to face some problems, which is why you're gonna have to subscribe to those following YouTubers and check their lives. If you live in the US, that is. I'm talking about Jake Randall, Sunborn Nation, and Nintendo. And I'm sure that some other channels are doing live sessions of pre-ordering the Nintendo Switch, but so far Jake Randall has been the most reliable, judging from his professional attitude in checking all of the websites at the same time. Make sure to follow him because he's going to do more live sessions, because like I said, Switch 2 is going to be sold in other bulks. When they're out of stock in a single day, they're going to have another stock either tomorrow or the next week. So make sure to check out your live sessions to guide you in order to get your first Switch 2 pre-order. Also, I just want to talk about one more topic before ending the video, and that is about the DLCs. That topic was supposed to be in a future video, but it has been bothering me for quite a while now. For example, aren't additional content such as DLC supposed to be tied to your account rather than the game itself? For example, I can access the DLC on my US account, but I cannot access it on my UK account. But then again, I get it. When it comes to publishing a sequel or an addition to a game, then all the content, including the additional content, should be included in it. Let's take Splatoon 2 for example. After finishing the Octo expansion DLC, you get to pick Octoling Girl and Octoling Boy as 2 additional characters for your avatar. Later in Splatoon 3, they added it as part of the content instead of part of a separate DLC. That's kinda mostly expected for sequel games, but then you have edition games like the Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U. It has been sold for $60 with an additional DLC of $20. After that, with the Switch Deluxe edition of Mario Kart 8, they charged it $60 instead of a whole $80. And that included the DLC of the Wii U version. So in one side, I get it, and I actually do support that it has to include DLC, but then if we move on to Nintendo's perspective, knowing that the Switch console has sold 150 million units compared to the Wii U that hasn't really sold much, it would make sense for them to not include the DLC, even though I really think they should include it, in order to not cheat those who already bought the DLC on the Switch 1 version. Like I said, both sides are pretty much understandable, although I'm more into the side that they should have included the DLC with the Switch 2 version. For those of you who are still struggling to decide, I get it. I myself am still hesitating to buy the Switch 2. It's an expensive but understandable price. If anything, I'm still waiting for more news from Nintendo themselves or any other journalists before I decide if buying the Switch 2 is a good idea. You may not be able to pre-order now, but you still have till June 5th to make your decision. In fact, if you are still hesitant on buying the Switch 2 like me, then you can feel free to watch my future videos where I'm going to first talk about Mario Kart World. I'm going to talk about basically everything that we know from both the direct and from the social media itself, and try to summarize it all in one video. After that, I'm gonna do another video about the prices and a summary of the timeline of the diabolical Nintendo Switch 2 news. I mean, come on, each day was a huge chunk itself, and they still can't find anything on Kirby Riders.
We ain't found shit.
Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. Without further ado, hi, my name is Sully, and this video was to announce that pre-orders have started. I probably should have uploaded this 2 days ago, but what can you do? As far as personal matters go, circumstances aren't in my favor in terms of uploading, but I hope to do my best in the future videos. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.